Something historic has just happened, and most Americans haven't fully realized it yet. Now, for years, we were told the European Union was the model, the future, the enlightened system that America was supposed to copy. More regulation, more oversight, more experts, more control, and somehow, magically, more prosperity. But now the mask is off, and the EU didn't just stumble, it didn't just weaken, it fell. And the reason matters because what Europe is doing right now is not just about tech fines or bureaucratic power grabs. According to President Donald Trump, this has just crossed into something far bigger, an attack on American companies, an attack on American speech, and ultimately an attack on every American citizen who uses the modern digital world. Europe couldn't compete, so it regulated. Europe couldn't innovate, so it punished. And when that wasn't enough, it tried to export its censorship, its control, and its economic failures straight onto the US platforms. That is when everything changed. Visa bans, congressional revolt, a White House that finally said no. So what you're watching unfold isn't a trade dispute, it's the opening chapter of a full-blown free speech and sovereignty showdown between America and a collapsing globalist system that overplayed its hand. Well, tonight, we're going to go ahead and break down exactly how the EU fell, why Trump drew the line, and why this fight is only just the beginning. Stick with me, guys, because this one matters. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. I appreciate you hitting the like button. You guys are amazing. Let's go ahead and be very clear, okay? Let's be very clear about what we mean when we say the EU has fallen, because this isn't tanks rolling through Brussels or flags coming down overnight. This is actually something more dangerous. What fell was legitimacy. What fell was authority. What fell was the illusion that the European Union still knows what it's doing. Now, for years, Europe sold itself as the moral and economic adult in the room. Smarter regulators, better plans, more sophisticated governance. America was reckless. America was loud. America needed to be restrained. And then reality hit. Europe stopped producing. Europe stopped innovating. Europe stopped competing. And instead of fixing that, instead of rebuilding growth, they reached for control, fines, rules, punishment, pressure. That is when the people finally saw it. The EU didn't fall because of one policy. It fell because the public realized that the system no longer creates value, it only extracts it. And once a governing body loses moral authority and economic credibility at the exact same time, the collapse doesn't come with fireworks. It comes with exposure. And that, my friends, that exposure leads us directly to the rot underneath the surface. So here's the part that nobody in Brussels wants to say out loud. The European Union cannot fund itself organically anymore. Decades of overregulation crushed startups before they could scale. Bureaucratic paralysis turned innovation into paperwork. Energy policy kneecapped manufacturing. Labor rules scared off risk. Growth slowed, then stalled, and then flatlined. It died. And when governments can't grow, they still need money. So what did Europe do? Well, they started extracting revenue through punishment. Not productivity, not invention, not competitive industries, punishment. So instead of building world-class tech companies, Europe finds American ones. Instead of nurturing innovation, it regulates it to death, then taxes the survivors. That's not governance. That is desperation wearing a suit. Now, here's the quiet admission hiding in plain sight. When fines become predictable, recurring, and budgeted for, they're no longer about justice. That is a revenue stream. And that is rot, okay? R-O-T. That is the moment that the system gives itself away. And what happens next isn't just about money, it's about power. And so now this is where the story turns from mismanagement into something far more sinister. American tech companies operating in Europe, they're not being fined occasionally, they're being fined routinely, predictably, so predictably in fact, that these penalties are treated like a normal cost of doing business, a line item, just another expense, maybe even tax deductible for all I know. I don't know, I'm not a tax guy. But that should really set off some alarm bells. Because when enforcement becomes consistent regardless of behavior, it's no longer about the rules, it's about revenue. See, Europe didn't stumble into this. It built a system where regulation functions as a cash machine that's aimed outward, not inward. Now I want you to ask yourself this. If these policies were really about protecting consumers, then why aren't European tech companies and tech firms dominating the global market? Why isn't innovation exploding across the continent? Because the goal isn't growth, it's control and extraction. Europe couldn't compete with American platforms, so it regulated them. When regulation didn't slow them down enough, it fined them. And when fines became normalized, the EU revealed the truth. It wasn't oversight. It was economic warfare dressed up as fairness. And that, my friends, that's where President Trump stepped in, because this wasn't just about tech anymore. Oh, and by the way, this isn't just something that governments do. This is the same thing that's happening to regular people every single day quietly. A woman went in for what she thought was a very simple medical test. Her Medicare plan covered the appointment, but not the test itself. The bill? $314. Now, she didn't find out until it showed up in the mail. She ended up calling her daughter crying on the phone. And this is how these systems work. They don't warn you, they just send the bill. This is why I partner with Chapter. Chapter looks inside of your Medicare coverage before the surprise hits. They review your plan line by line and flag the gaps most people never see until it's too late. Now, most people watching this, they're already calling the phone number at the bottom of your screen right here, 909-563-8279, or they're clicking the link down below in the description of this video, askchapter.org/Ron, just to make sure that they're not next. Because hidden penalties hurt, whether they come from Brussels or they hit you in the mailbox. Give my friends a call over at Chapter and tell them Ron says hello. Now, here's the mistake that the EU made. They thought that this was just Silicon Valley's problem. Well, President Trump made it crystal clear. It isn't. This isn't about billionaires or boardrooms. This is about precedent. If Europe can punish American companies simply for being successful, then no American industry is safe. Today it's tech, tomorrow it's energy, finance, media, manufacturing. This is why President Trump framed it the way that he did, as an attack on American economic sovereignty. Because once a foreign bloc can dictate how U.S. platforms operate, what they pay, and how they moderate speech, America's no longer setting its own rules. It's taking orders. And President Trump wasn't willing to allow that. Not again. Well, amen for that, right? Drop a 47 down in the comments down below, my friends. Now, for years, administrations previously tolerated it in the name of cooperation. Trump saw it for what it really was, a one-way engagement where America produces and Europe punishes. And so when Trump says that this affects all Americans, he's right. Because once you surrender control in one sector, the rest always follow. And this is when the fight shifted from money to speech. And this is where the mask fully comes off, because if this were really just about money, the story would have ended with the fines, but it didn't. What Europe wanted wasn't just revenue, it wanted leverage too. EU digital laws gave regulators the power to quietly pressure platforms behind closed doors, not just to pay up, but to police speech, to decide what counts as harmful, misinformation, or unsafe. And once those rules exist, they don't stop at Europe's borders. American platforms host American speech, American users, American political debate. So when Europe tells a platform comply or pay, it's not regulating Europe. It's shaping what Americans see, say, and hear online. This is why Trump and his administration called it out for what it really was: censorship by proxy. Money was the pressure point, speech was the prize. And once that became clear, this stopped being a trade issue. It became a sovereignty issue because no unelected bureaucrat in Brussels gets to decide the boundaries of American speech. That realization is what turned a regulatory dispute into a geopolitical confrontation. And so this was the moment that the temperature spiked. When the Trump administration announced visa bans targeting European officials tied to digital censorship enforcement, this sent a message that no one in Brussels expected. The U.S. is done pretending that this is normal diplomacy. Visa bans are not symbolic gestures, they're declarations. They mean Washington no longer views certain actors as partners, but as hostile participants in a campaign against American interests. Now, for decades, Europe assumed that the U.S. would just absorb pressure quietly. That assumption collapsed the moment that visas were pulled. Suddenly, the consequences were personal: careers, travel, access, influence. This wasn't about punishment. This was about signaling a line in the sand. I mean, you want to interfere with American speech, do you? You want to strong-arm U.S. companies, do you? Then you don't get free access to America. That's when everyone realized that this wasn't about posturing anymore. The Cold War over speech and power had just gone public. This is where the story stops being just a Trump versus Europe fight, because once Congress moved, it became institutional. Now, for years, lawmakers tiptoed around Europe's digital rules, pretending that this was just differences in regulatory philosophy. That illusion shattered when congressional resolutions openly challenged EU and UK censorship laws for influencing American speech. That's not a small accusation. That's Congress saying out loud that foreign governments are shaping the information environment inside the United States. And what made this moment rare and even dangerous at the same time is that it wasn't partisan theater. You had lawmakers across ideological lines acknowledging the exact same reality. When American platforms are pressured abroad, Americans feel it at home. So this was Washington admitting something that it usually avoids, that global governance experiments don't stay overseas. They migrate, they spread, they normalize. And once Congress spoke, the EU could no longer pretend that this was just a trade spat or a tech dispute. The United States government as a whole was pushing back, and that's when Europe's long-standing assumptions finally collapsed. Now, here's the strategic error that Europe just made, and it was a big one. This is a boo-boo. They assumed that the United States would always tolerate the pressure. They assumed American leadership would just keep prioritizing alliances over sovereignty, that fines would be paid quietly, that censorship pressure would be absorbed silently, that Americans would never connect the dots. But under Trump's second administration, that assumption evaporated. Europe mistook patience for weakness, cooperation for consent. And once that miscalculation became obvious, the entire strategy unraveled. Because leverage only works when the other side accepts it. The moment the US stopped accepting fines as normal, censorship as acceptable, and bureaucratic overreach as inevitable, Europe lost its grip. This wasn't a breakdown in diplomacy, it was a correction. And when a system built on extraction loses compliance, collapse isn't dramatic, it's all of a sudden. Now, this is the moment when ambiguity ended. President Donald Trump didn't soften the message, he didn't outsource it to diplomats, he just said it plainly. No more accepting foreign fines as the price of doing business. No more letting unelected regulators dictate how American platforms operate. No more pretending censorship pressure is just policy disagreement. This was a strategic shift, not emotional, not impulsive. Trump used leverage the way it was always meant to be used. Trade pressure, diplomatic consequences, visa restrictions, and direct confrontation. The message was simple and it was unmistakable. America will not subsidize systems that work against it. Now, for years, the political class tolerated a one-sided arrangement in the name of stability. Trump just ended it in the name of sovereignty. And once that line was drawn, there was no going back, because when the world's largest economy stops complying, systems built on compliance collapse fast. Which kind of brings us to the bigger picture, because Europe isn't the only place that this model is failing. Now, what's happening in Europe isn't isolated. You see the same pattern in other regulatory-heavy countries and systems, Canada, Australia, and even beyond. High control, low growth, heavy enforcement, shrinking innovations, different flags, same outcome. The model always promises safety, fairness, and stability. What it delivers is stagnation, dependency, and control. And when growth disappears, enforcement fills the gap. That's the pattern. The EU just became the most visible example because it pushed the furthest, the fastest, and assumed that the resistance would never come. But it did. And so now the globalist framework that depended on quiet compliance is cracking under defiance. Not chaos, resistance. Not isolation, correction. Control without growth doesn't just fail economically, it fails politically and it fails culturally. And once people see that, they don't unsee it. So this is where the story stops being about Europe and it starts being about the future. Because when we say that the EU has fallen, we're not talking about borders disappearing. We're talking about a system losing the one thing that it cannot survive without: credibility. And so Europe now faces a fork in the road. One path requires humility, rebuilding real innovation, cutting regulatory bloat, competing instead of coercing, and accepting that control is not a substitute for growth. Now, the other path is easier. Doubling down, more fines, more speech rules, more pressure, more isolation, and well, history tells us where that road leads. America has already made its choice. Under President Donald Trump, the United States chose resistance, chose sovereignty, chose to stop pretending that global governance experiments are harmless when they spill into American life. Now, this isn't a trade war. This is not a tech dispute. This is a line that's being drawn around who decides the future of speech, innovation, and national power. Europe overplayed its hand, the illusion shattered, the pushback arrived, and now this balance is shifting. Now, what happens next really depends on whether Europe learns from this moment or proves once and for all that the system really has fallen beyond repair. That's the reckoning, folks, and this fight is only just beginning. Hit the like button, subscribe, share this video. I'll see you next time.